On today's episode, we have Adam Dart, Brownlee Fitness Squad member and now World Champion standard distance duathlete. After an incredible race at the World Multisport event in Ibiza, in this episode, Adam talks about his preparation and training plans leading into the race, and also provides brilliant insights into the race itself. Adam is a humble, modest guy, and just at the start of what is set to be a fantastic multi-sport career. We're really proud he's part of the Brownlee Fitness Squad and hope you enjoy listening to this episode. Adam, thanks so much for joining us today. And I know that Alistair and Johnny pinged in and Bucko congratulating you on an incredible result in Ibiza. And what I wanted to do was pass on my congratulations to us. So well done, champ, world champion.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers.
And really, I think what our listeners would love to hear really is how the race unfolded, because duathlon is, and I know, is a brutal sport. It's threshold all the way, hamstrings, it's utterly brutal. So they would love to know about the race itself, but also the sort of training and preparation and your kind of journey, your world championship journey to actually winning your age group and most impressively of all, third overall, which is incredible. So take it from there and tell us about your journey to this incredible success and the training that led you to the event.
Yeah, so do you want me to start about where I started duathlon, or sort of start this year sort of thing?
Yeah, kind of. Where did you start? Let's start there.
So I started back in, my first World Champs was 2018, so I probably started duathlons 2017. 2016 maybe. Basically, I did triathlon a bit, like little kids races, but I always realised my swim was letting me down big time. And then it was a few guys in my tri group said to me, "Oh, why don't you give duathlon camps a go?" And I was like, "Oh, there's actually a world duathlon camps. That sounds right up my street." So yeah, I tried qualifying at a race in Bedford in 2017. It might have been. And I messed up completely in that qualifying race. I miscounted my laps on the bike, had an absolute nightmare. So that was a race to forget. So it's safe to say I didn't qualify that race. But then I went back probably later on that year for another qualifying race at Bedford. And I qualified then for the 2018 Duathlon World Champs. And then Brilliant. I went to that one when I was 18, and then I've always had the duathlon bug. I always knew that was my passion. And then 2018, I came 7th, I think, or 8th in my age group. And then that was kind of took off from there, really. I came top 10 in my age group. So I thought, yeah, that's a good start. And then it just moved on. I just kept on qualifying, did the duathlons, went to Pontevedra the next year. That was a really tough year for my duathlon racing. I got 10th in my age group that year. Wasn't a great race for me, but that was when I was doing my A-level. So I kind of took that as a hit and was like, yeah, I'll come back again when I'm feeling stronger. And then, of course, we had COVID hit. So that COVID, I think, actually made my duathlon and made my triathlon what it is today, because I basically trained full time during COVID. I neglected lots of my uni studies, but I turned COVID into a training plan. So I just trained so much during COVID. So when I came back to racing post COVID, I was the fittest I've ever been. And then
COVID was amazing because we could run and we could cycle. Yeah.
So COVID was absolutely amazing for me because I could, during my training, all throughout the day, didn't have anything getting in the way. So that definitely started making it a lot easier for me, and I was doing really well. And then after COVID, I said to myself, right, I'm going to move up to standard distance duathlon racing, because I was realising the sprint distance was too short, and I like the run. I'm a strong cyclist, so I thought, right, I need to move up to a longer distance now. So I did my first standard distance.
Just explain, Adam, what a standard distance is, so that those that know.
Yeah. So the standard distance was a 10k run at the start, and then the 40k bike ride and a 5k run to finish it off. And that suited me quite well because I always wanted a longer run at the end because I always picked up places on the runs. So I gave my first standard distance race to go in 2019 was actually my first standard distance duathlon just before COVID. And that was at Ashford House, really nice venue back in England. And I think I got 6th overall in that race. And it was like, okay, yeah, standard distance suits me quite well. And then I had to give it a break. Obviously, no World Champs during COVID. And then my first World Champs after COVID was Alvilles. It was a sprint distance because I qualified for it about 2 years previously when I was still doing sprint distance. So I went to Alvilles on really good form. And I was 4th in my age group of that race and 10th overall. And to me, that was it was a great race. I had a brilliant race, but it was really annoying to be so close to the podium and not get the podium because I really focused in that race, and that was a real target was to get the podium. So it was a really good but really frustrating race. And then I went to the extreme and decided I'm going to skip standard distance, go up to middle distance. So I qualified for the middle distance Duathlon World Champs in Viborg.
Once again, what's the distances there?
Yeah, so middle distance is a 10k run at the start, and then a 60k bike, and then a 10k run at the end as well. So, yeah, really brutal stuff. Horrible race. I qualified for the middle distance World Champs in Viborg for 2022, and I had a really good race there. Got 2nd in my age group of that race, 10th overall. It was an amazing atmosphere, an amazing course. And it was like, yeah, longer stuff suits me a lot better. But I always knew standard distance at World Champs was where I wanted to be racing. So finally, this year I had the standard distance Duathlon World Champs in Ibiza. So I had that obviously setting my target since it got announced of the date and stuff. And it was originally meant to be one of 2A races I had. Originally, I was meant to be doing the World Champs I've just done, and I was meant to be doing the middle distance Duathlon World Champs again. But unfortunately, the middle distance World Champs got cancelled this year due to no host country being found or something. So it meant I could put all my focus onto Ibiza. And so, yeah, from probably about Christmas time was when I started seriously thinking, okay, Ibiza is in May or end of April. I should really start. Everything needs to be on for Ibiza now. I need to be getting my form ready because end of April is still quite early season.
It is, yeah.
I think most people don't hit form until a lot later in the season. So I was quite worried about it being early April, thinking, well, how am I going to get myself ready in time? So it was a bit panicky just after Christmas because I had a few illnesses over Christmas, hadn't had the best training before Christmas. So I came into February at probably one of the most unfit stages I've ever been in February. January, February, I was quite low on my fitness. I wasn't at the speed I wanted to be at. So I did a few running races in February to kind of give myself an idea of where I was. And the results of those running races kind of show that actually my fitness wasn't too bad. I was close enough to where I wanted to be that it wasn't going to take too long to get back to top form. So I put all my focus then onto the English Duathlon Champs, standard distance national champs, which was the 5th of March in Carsington Water. And that was then a target race for me. I wanted to build my fitness up for that, knowing that if I had a good start to the season, then I could carry on with that and it would be good leading up to Worlds. Yeah. As it happened at the national champs, it was a horrible race. It was the worst conditions I've ever raced in. And I'd never want to do that race again. It was so tough, freezing cold.
What was by the way, duathlon tends to start early and late, doesn't it? It's,
yeah. So I'm
like
used to duathlons. I'm used to duathlons being cold and wet, but when it was like 2 degrees on race day, a bit of snow in the air, it was just, I got on the bike and I made a mistake beforehand of not putting any thermal layers on. I just got on the bike in the tri-suit, arm warmers and gloves, but no thermal base layer. So I froze after about a couple of K on the bike. I was frozen. And I think what most people know is when you start to freeze on a bike, it's game over. And it just turns into a really grim. Yeah, it turns into a really grim experience. So I had a really grim race that day. I still managed to win my age group, which is one positive of a truly horrendous day. But that sort of it gave me really good indication of where my fitness was and what I needed to work on. And it showed me that my cycling was a weaker point for me. And it showed me that if I wanted to do well, I needed to put all my focus into my cycling. So coming off of that first duathlon on the 5th of March, I made the decision to up my cycling, up my volume, focus more on getting the cycling in, because that was what let me down. So I didn't want that. I didn't want anything to let me down.
And give us some idea, Adam, what your run volume and cycle volume is in a week, say.
Yeah. So running wise, I've always worked quite well off of fairly low volume. So running wise, I was doing about 25 miles on average a week.
Right.
Which I know compared to lots of triathletes and duathletes is actually fairly low running mileage. But I've always found I've got all my PBs off of lower mileage on the running. So I stuck with what I knew and stuck with what has worked in the past and just kept my volume on the running about 20, 25 miles a week, up to 30 every now and then. Cycling volume, the bike, that was a bit more up and down. That one, the bike I wanted to be doing a lot more than I was. But training in England in early spring, as everyone knows, isn't particularly nice. So my cycling volume was never as high as I wanted it to be. But looking back at my data, it was probably averaging about 6 hours a week, probably on the bike, which again isn't extremely high for some people, but it was working for me. I could have done more, but it worked for me. I didn't want to overdo anything, so I just kept to the plan being set by Brownlee Fitness and set by Bucko.
Yeah,
and
Bucko's training method. Obviously, we're both coached in part of Brownlee Fitness. It's get the 80% of the plan done, and you're going to be fit and ready.
So that's what I did. I just stuck to the plan Bucko sent, and I added in a bit more volume on my cycling than which was in the plan, because the plan, I did all the key sessions, and then whenever I had a day off, I normally put in another hour cycling.
I
wanted to really build up my cycling before World Champs, so I put in cycling on a lot more days than what was in the plan, and that started to work.
And Bucko does encourage anyone that wants to add a more aerobic zone 2 non-stressful stuff, but do the key sessions. And then if you've got time and you feel you've got the energy, put in as much addition as you want.
I did that. I made a real focus on the days I wasn't doing a particular cycle workout, just to go outside for an hour or jump on the turbo for an hour, just keep it aerobic, zone 2. Quite often I did that on a day I had a hard run session. I'd have a hard run session in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'd go on the turbo for an hour or go outside, keep it zone 2, spin my legs out, and it really helped get my volume up on the bike. but probably helped my legs recover from the running as well. So I found that really useful.
Very smart.
I had my second duathlon of the season was the Ashford duathlon, mid-April, 16th of April. No, it wasn't. That was Portsmouth. No, Ashford of March, end of March. And I had an amazing race that day. Yeah. I won Ashford duathlon, I think 3-minute lead over second place.
Brilliant.
Everything at that race went well. I had an amazing run. It was a grim bike. It rained again, as it did with all my races. It was rain, it was wet, it was cold, but I coped with the cold a lot better this time. So I had a pretty solid bike, and I had just an amazing race that day. And I came off that race.
What was the distance, Adam? What was the distance?
Standard distance. So 10K run at the start, and then a 40K bike, 5K run. Lovely. But yeah, my times in that event showed me that I was in some real good form. So I left that event with lots of confidence, thinking, if I can just build ever so slightly on this form, I'm going to be in good shape when it comes to World Champs. And I then, at the start of April, I went to Guernsey actually for a running festival over Easter, because they do the Guernsey Athletics Club organise a Easter running festival. And I did it last year, bit of fun. Well, it's not, it is fun, but it's hard work. And it's basically 4 days of doing a running race each day. So it started off with a 5K race, followed by a 4.5 mile cross country race, followed by a 10K running race on the last day. And I used that as a way to test out my form. And I got a PB on the 10K of 33:07 that day.
Amazing.
And I looked at that race and thought, okay, 10K running's going well. That was really promising for World Champs coming up. And so I came off of that weekend, start of April, very high on confidence, knowing that it was only a month till World Champs. So there wasn't much more I could do to get ready. I'd done all the hard work leading up to that point. So it was more about just keeping my training consistent, not pushing myself too hard.
This is what Alistair says in that winter block, moving into race season is where the magic happens. It's where you do really. Let's move to actually Ibiza itself now.
Sure.
So let's talk through the race, because we were talking earlier before we started. Some mutual friends of ours were watching the race back home. I was there at Ibiza and saw you climb, really climb your way back into an amazing situation. So just talk us through the race, the course, I'd love to, because I'm still replaying that race in my head every day, I think. Basically, I got into that race thinking my strength was going to be the run. So I went into that race thinking, okay, first 10K, I'm going to hit it hard and try and go with the front pack. So I got myself right to the front at the start line. I saw that, by the way, on the video. You're right. You're actually in the middle.
That's the one thing I've learned through years of racing, is you need to be at the front on the start line. You don't want to be stuck behind people. As it happens, I got shoved as soon as it started, I got shoved by a few bigger athletes than me, and I found myself second or third row. But so the start was mental. No other word to describe it. It was crazy. We went off like rockets. I wasn't caring about how fast I was running, because I knew I was running too fast for a 10K. All I wanted to do was get to the front and see if I could handle the pace at the front of the race. So I went off, got myself to the front, or the front group. We went through the first mile in 4:50. And that's not a good mark. That's not a mile split I want to be doing at the start of a 10K. It was actually equal to my mile PB. So I obviously didn't know that at the time. At the time, I just thought, oh, this is really fast. I really hope they don't keep this pace going for 10K because I can't hold it. And unfortunately for me, the people at the front kept the pace going, and I slowly found myself drifting off the front pack. And got to about the halfway mark. I'd lost ground. I'd lost the front pack. They're off on their own. There's a massive gap between me and the front pack, and there's just people behind me constantly catching me who've gone off at a more sensible pace and were pacing it better than I was. So I was paying a price on that second lap for going off too quick. And actually, one of my fellow GB racers who I've raced with before, he caught me up midway through the second lap and gave me a bit of a boost needed to keep going, because I was really, at that point on the second lap, I was really struggling to keep myself going. I was getting slower and slower, just wanting that run to end. And my mate went past, and when you see someone you know, it gives you a bit of a kick, and it's like, oh, he's just caught me, so I need to kick again now. So big thanks to my mate, because he helped me get going again. And
Brilliant.
I tried to hang on to him for the rest of the first run. We were both dying. It was painful. Our pace had dropped severely from the start of the race. So when we came into transition, I was really thankful to be getting on my bike. And the thing is, I never know what I'm going to do on the bike before a race. I never know whether my legs are going to feel amazing or whether they're going to feel really bad. So for me, going into any duathlon, I always hope that my bike goes well. And I know that on a good day, I could have a really good bike and I could use it to gain a lot of advantage. But I also know on a bad day, my bike could hinder me big time. So I got on the bike, and straight away coming out of transition, I was overtaking 3 or 4 athletes coming out of transition on the first little hill. Because I'd also made a decision before the race that I wasn't going to worry about trying to do a flying mount. And for people who don't know what a flying mount is, it's what they see the pros doing triathlons. And it's supposedly a quicker way to mount your bike. And it is quicker if you get it right. And there's been too many races this season where I've tried to do a flying mount or as close to a flying mount as I can do. And I've got it wrong so many times this season. And if you get it wrong, it could really hinder your race. And with that mount line, the mount line was at the bottom of the hill. So me and Andy McGee, actually, beforehand, we decided that we weren't going to bother flying mounts or anything fancy like that. We were going to do a good old-fashioned, put your cycling shoes on in transition and just run through transition in your cycling shoes. And that worked for me. It meant I could get on my bike, and I did overtake 3 athletes who were fiddling around trying to get their feet in their shoes as soon as we started. So that worked. And then the bike course was 3 laps of a out and back, basically a very fast road, extremely smooth. The outwards journey was a slight uphill, and then coming back, it was a slight downhill. So we did that 3 times, and my tactic going into it was to push hard on the uphill or the slight uphill outward leg, and then on the downward leg, where it was going slightly downhill, I'd focus more all on my aerodynamics and let my power ease off, use it to recover, to then go again on the uphill. So on the first uphill section, I caught 1 or 2 athletes quite early on. And then I could see that I was gaining time on the athletes ahead. I could just about see the rear of them ahead, but I wasn't within touching distance yet. I was just slowly making progress. And the great thing about having an out and back course is you can see where your competitors are. So you can see whether you're gaining on them. And at that first turnaround point, I could see that actually the leaders weren't as far ahead as I thought they would be. So that gave me a good boost to really work hard. And I came down the slight hill at the end of the first lap. I felt in control. I felt comfortable. And then moving on to the second lap, when we got to the turnaround point, I realised that the leaders weren't that far ahead anymore. I could see them. They were in touching distance. So to come off the run in 8th place as I was, I didn't expect to be catching the leaders on that bike. I expected to catch a few people, but it was never, my plan was never to catch the leaders. I didn't think that was going to happen. So when I saw the leaders were quite close, it was a real confidence boost. And starting that second lap, I just went quite hard in the uphill section. And before I knew it, I caught the two French guys in first and second. And I put in a hard dig to get past them, because obviously it was a draft illegal race. You weren't allowed to draft people. So they were quite close to each other. So I couldn't just overtake one. I had to go past both of them to commit. So I pulled out and overtook both of them. And I didn't actually know whether I was at the front of the race at this point. Everyone on the side knew I was at the front of the race at this point. But because it was such a busy course of athletes from other age groups on different laps to us, it was hard to tell. I could see the lead motorbike up ahead, but I couldn't work out whether I was the first athlete or whether there's someone in front of me. So moving on to the third lap, again, I knew the people I'd overtaken. I knew they're close on my wheel. So again, I just went focused on getting all my energy out and putting my power out on the uphill. And then on the downhill section on the last lap, I pushed a lot harder than I did in the previous laps. I really wanted to empty what was left, basically. I wanted to confirm the position I had, and I wanted to make sure that any athlete behind me had a small chance. And I didn't want people to have a chance of getting back to me on that bike. I wanted to put as much time into my competitors as I could. So I really pushed hard in that last section. Came back towards transition, and as I left the course, left the out and back section and went back towards transition, it was at that point I realised that the lead motorbike was for me, and I was in the lead. And it was an amazing feeling, thinking, oh wow, I have actually biked my way back to the front of the race now. I wasn't expecting that. So I came back to transition, and I didn't know that the two French guys I'd overtaken on the bike had sat in quite nicely behind me for the last lap. I didn't know how close they were to me. It was only as we came down the hill to transition and I got ready to dismount my bike, I had one French guy just whiz straight past me. And I knew at that point that I had two French guys with me for company. And I knew they were quick runners as well. So it was still an amazing feeling knowing I was near the front of the race. But it was also quite hard thinking, oh, okay, I've got two really fast runners next to me now. So,
and I think the French are in the elite category, right?
No, they were my category. Well, no, not my category, but age group above me. Yeah,
got you.
Age group above.
Yeah, it was the age group above you. Yeah, I saw him. Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah. So the French were 25 to 29 age group.
Unbelievable.
And I knew that beforehand. So when they overtook me through transition, I think they're still part of me quite thinking, well, it's all right. They're not in my age group, so I wasn't too worried. As much as I wanted to go for the overall standings, I was just amazed at how well I've done on the bike. And as it happened, we came through transition, and I'd never seen people run so fast with their bike before. But I was running flat out with my bike, and I was still losing ground in these two French guys. And they were in and out of transition before I'd even had a chance to put my bike on the back. That's how efficient they were. I'd only just racked my bike, and the two French guys had racked their bike and got their shoes on, and out they went. And in that moment, I'd lost any advantage I had. I'd lost it to them in transition, and I then faffed around getting my shoes on, which is it's annoying. But looking back, I only lost 10 seconds. They were still 30 seconds quicker than me in my last run. So it wouldn't make any difference whether I came out or not with them. It may have made it more interesting for the spectators, and it may have made it more interesting for them. But at the end of the day, they were quicker runners than me. So when I came on to that last run, I obviously knew I was in third position overall, which was an amazing feeling. And I just focused on trying to keep comfortable, because I could see the French guys just running into the distance, and fair play to them. They had an amazing run. So I was more concerned about just making sure nothing happened, because I didn't want any sort of cramp or anything to go wrong, because I knew I had a big gap over 4th place. Someone shouted to me, "You've got a minute gap." And I thought, okay, minute gap, that's a nice large gap. So I went on to that second run, started it short, like keep myself comfortable, focus on a good form, focus on not going too hard early on. And as annoying as that course was, with it being the run course is very technical. It was on very smooth, slippery slabs and pavestones.
I slipped just walking it.
Yeah. I almost slipped in my warm up. It was such a slippery surface, but it also had a section where really hard to explain. It was hard to do, but it's even harder to explain. You took a left at like a T-junction. You ran to the end of the pavement. You did a U-turn. You ran all the way back past where you came from. You then did another U-turn. You went back to the middle point, and then you then took a sharp left back to the way you came. And It was a really, really crazy section, that, because it was just dead turn followed by dead turn. So you had no momentum. But it helped, actually, because I could see where people were. So I could see the 2 French guys are way ahead. But I could also see that 4th place was nowhere near me. So that gave me, midway through the second run, that gave me a good confidence boost, knowing that unless anything went really wrong, I had 3rd place in the bag. And to know you have 3rd place sewn up quite early on in my last run, it was a really nice feeling. And it gave me good confidence to know that actually, if I just focus on running to the best of my ability, I don't need to worry about people catching me now. And it's a real privilege to be in that position, because you don't normally get a position like that in a race. You're normally fighting for every place. So I took that position as it was and thought, well, let's just focus on running strong. And then, the last 2.5K were extremely painful. Probably the hardest run of my life, I think. I felt like I was just running through quicksand. It was just a painful, slow slog.
What about nutrition, Adam? What did you take on board during the race, just so people get a sense
so
of
nutrition wise, I when I started standard distance duathlon racing, I always used to have one gel on the bike, and that would do me. And then when I did my first half Ironman about 2 years ago, one of my friends was a nutritionist, and she gave me a lot of advice on nutrition and how much I should be having. So since that race, I've been quite good on knowing what to take on the bike. So for me, I use a Science in Sport Beta Fuel, which is a very highly concentrated carbohydrate powder. I think it's got like 80 grams of carbs in one sachet. And I put that with 750 ml of water, which are then going to my bottle for the bike. So
all of my
nutrition,
it's on the bike.
All the nutrition, it's all on the bike.
Nothing on the first run, nothing on the second run.
No, I took on a few cups of water on the first run because it was Ibiza and it was so hot. But my main calories always come from the bike, because I find it's a lot easier to fuel on a bike than it is running. So I always take on the bulk of my nutrition comes from the bike. And with the last run only being about 20 minutes worth of effort, you can just about survive that without taking on any more calories. So for me, that second run, I actually focused a lot on getting water down me. I took on water at every aid station. I splashed water over my head because I knew the heat was a real factor, and it's not something we're used to. I made an effort to douse myself in water when I could and take on fluids, because even though I only had 2K of a run left, I wanted to cover myself on all bases and just make sure that I'd done everything I could do to finish. That last K, it was really it was hard. It was a really slow run. It felt like I was running really slowly. I didn't feel fast at all. It was only when I took the last turnaround point and the finish line was like 800 meters away that I could start to. Yeah, I started to enjoy myself a bit more. And I think I only let myself enjoy myself when I got to about 800 meters to go. That was when I allowed myself to take it in and think, okay, I've actually done quite well here. So when I came down the finish and shoot, if anyone's seen the video, there's a lot of arm waving going on. There's a lot of celebrations going on. I planned that celebration. I hadn't planned it, but that was going through my head when I was coming to the finish line. I was like, how am I going to celebrate coming down here? I don't know what I was doing.
I have to say, obviously I saw that, and I've done triathlon, so I do triathlon as part of training, but and I've raced triathlon, but not to a high level. Obviously, triathlon GB age group.
Yeah.
But can you win that race? Inspired me to enter You're going to Townsville clearly next year, yeah, in Australia.
It's a race. I've qualified for it, yes.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a huge commitment to go out to Australia, and one that I may not be able to do. It depends on, money. It comes down to money at the end of the day. Age group racing always does come down to money. So Townsville, if I can afford to go, I'll go.
Let's say we'll do everything we can to try and get you there, because Andy and me, we're going. I've got to qualify. I've got to qualify yet, but I've entered all the standard distance and sprint distance duathlon qualifiers.
Brilliant. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Fingers crossed I get a spot. But we'll find a way of getting you there, Adam. Don't worry.
Okay.
Because
the
three of us can go. Yeah. Because I love the format. It's obviously you've done triathlon. I do triathlon age group level. And I just and there's a lot of unknowns in the swim element of triathlon, right? The course, the conditions.
Yeah.
But in duathlon, it's full on racing. It's excitement from the moment the gun goes.
Yeah.
There's
threshold
all the way.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I would agree. Yeah.
I saw the excitement in everyone's face.
Yeah. I do triathlon quite a lot in the triathlon season, and I do love a triathlon. But actually, I find triathlon easier than duathlon. As much as I'm better at the duathlon's so much harder because, like you said, it is just you're straight into the veg zone. As soon as you start running, there's no such thing as pacing anymore. You're in the veg, and you stay in that veg zone until you finish. Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. Andy and I raced with the army, and if anyone's ever raced against the services, they would rather die than give up. Yeah, and we did a duathlon series at Thruxton. They're unbelievable athletes, kind of. It was short course, super sprint, 3 races. I was by race 3, everything had gone. It's brutal. I agree with you. Triathlon can be mentally quite hard, but duathlon is physically brutal. It's brutal.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's physically a lot more brutal than triathlon. Yeah, definitely.
First and foremost, once again, it's really amazing to run through what happened in the race, how you approached it, all the way to the win of your age group, world champ and 3rd overall. What's next? What are you focusing on next?
I am going to enter a few half Ironmans next. Because I did a half Ironman 2 years ago, and I loved it, and I did quite well. So I'm going to enter a few of them. I think there's one coming up in a month's time, which will be. I'm not expecting anything from that race, but it'll just be nice to go to a race with no pressure. Because with the duathlons, I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I look forward to doing some racing without having any pressure on myself. Just to start off with, and then I'll see where the season goes from there, really. Yeah.
Fantastic. and obviously you've qualified for the Worlds next year. European Duathlon?
Yep, I've qualified for Europeans as well, yeah.
And when's the Europeans for you, the duathlon? This is it this obviously
No
this
one
year?
knows yet. Oh, Europeans have been this year already. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, Venice.
So
it was Venice.
It was Venice, yeah. So I've qualified for Europeans next year.
Right. And no one knows quite yet. And then finally, Adam, just to draw a close, there's a tradition on our podcast, that we ask the guest if there is anyone, past or present, living or past, dead, that you would like to meet. Who would it be, and what would you want to ask them?
That's a real question you've thrown in there. I wasn't expecting that one.
Yeah. Oh. Think about your career, your sporting career. Is there anyone? It's a closing tradition of the podcast to ask you who would it be?
Christian Blumenfeld.
Really?
Yeah. I just love watching him race. It's just what he just tears every race apart. It's just so fun watching him race. Yeah.
And what would you ask him?
I mean, stupidly, I'll probably just ask how he does it, how he finds the strength to train as much as he does and always race flat out, really, because he never seems to stop, that guy. He's always got loads of energy. It's impressive. I just love how...
I don't think he has some people don't have a fear.
No, he doesn't. No.
I don't think he has a turn off. Like a pain.
I think
there's some sort of thing missing in terms of pain.
Yeah. No, I don't think he feels pain, because he never seems to feel pain when you watch him race. It's just great fun, really. Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us. It's been obviously you've inspired a lot of people from this World Championships, including me, to adapt my training to not just triathlon, but to enter those 4 sprint and 2 sprint and 2 standard qualifiers, in the hope that you, me, and Double E head off to Townsville next year.
Yeah.
All right, nice. Brilliant. So thank you.
Cheers.
Great talking to you. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll catch up soon on the training plan.
Thank you. It's been really good to talk to you. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the show. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to get instantly notified of new episodes. And we have an exciting lineup of guests planned, all brought to you to help you with your triathlon journey.